G'day guys, welcome back to the channel for another video on the No Prep Barra. So today we are 2 weeks out from Bad Ideas track day. So just got some general things to do, nothing too major. Last week did a bunch of electrical stuff and got a bunch of things plugged in through the ECU. Obviously routed a wire there for the transbrake, did not actually connect that to the relays or anything yet. So today we will probably be tackling that. Show you what else I've been buying behind the scenes. So got a couple of little things to get done today, so we'll run you through that. Rightio guys, so got some oil and oil filter and a new sump plug. Going to give the car a service. Picked up some titanium rocker cover, coil cover bolts. So just gonna whack those on because at the moment there's only 2 bolts holding my coil cover on. Now, when I redid the fuel pump fuses, I used 2 MIDI fuse holders. So I've just got a double 2-in-1 and it's on a bracket. So I'll try and mount that somewhere tucked away a bit. New keypad remote. The circuits are a little bit corroded in under the buttons on my current one. So got a new one of those through Burson's. Gonna show you how to program that. Fire extinguisher, very handy. Probably should have got a bigger one, but I walked in a 1320 and that was right in front of me, so I grabbed it because I did buy a bracket off eBay. This was like 30 bucks or something, so mount that to the passenger seat. When I routed the cables for the battery relocation in the boot, I did it sort of a bit of a hack way with the conduit to cover the holes. $1.50 at Bunnings, 20mm cable glands, so 2 of them, $3. That'll be a little bit more professional. Now that I've moved the battery, we can make an intake. So I've got a 5-inch 45, 5-inch silicon straight and a 5-inch filter. Opted for a slightly bigger one. They had 2. This probably may even go bigger again. I might even try, next time we're on the dyno, I might grab a few 5-inch filters and do some testing, maybe try a K&N or something. See if K&N or Airflow are any different for power. Been on eBay, got a leather console lid because they always go slimy. If you get a leather one, they don't go slimy. So that was like 100 bucks or something. 25 bucks I think for this, or 35, 50 bucks, I can't remember, not much. A unbroken fuse box. Mine is completely broken off here and completely broken off here. Usually they'll just round the corners when they break and the updated cables will still fit, but mine is completely destroyed, so needed a new one. They're no longer available from Ford, so yep, you're gonna have to go to eBay and get a used one. And silver cruise buttons. Nothing wrong with my cruise buttons, they do work, but set on mine can flick forward. I don't know if you can fix that, you probably can, but I like the silver ones anyway. It makes the steering wheel stand out a little bit more. So go and whack those in today as well. That's probably it. Now there is one other thing, and that is the goddamn rising fuel pressure that doesn't rise all the way. Now, I have been doing some more brainstorming, talking to some more people who are a lot smarter than me, and I reckon I know what the problem is now. So we're gonna try and fix that today as well. We're gonna fix that. We're gonna try and fix that this weekend. I'm not promising anything by any days because we all know how distracted I get. And it's already 10:30, so got here pretty late because I did some running around and picking up some parts this morning. So that is most likely because I put a stock in-tank pump in. I thought in my head, yep, sweet, that's what everyone does now. Don't need to drill the return venturi. Everyone does this, no one has an issue. But what I sort of wasn't really factoring in was that I reckon everyone has this same issue, that it's not actually noticing it because they don't run fuel pressure sensors, they don't have Haltech, they're just a stock ECU, whatever. So they're probably not noticing this issue happening, and it's not the end of the world, this issue anyway. As we know, my car totally has enough fuel to run at 32 PSI boost without the fuel pressure rising. I've got enough injector, I've got enough fuel flow, all that to sort of not really worry about that. But to get it technically correct, I want that fuel pressure to come up with boost 1-to-1. So I'm gonna drill out that venturi. It's gonna cost me nothing, and then we can test it and see if it works. If it works, bloody beautiful, don't have to spend any more money. Other option is I just need to get a low pressure lift pump that has absolutely no pressure to it, and it just keeps the surge tank full and doesn't pressurize the surge. Because I think my issue is I still got too much pressure in the surge tank. Next thing as well is my car is nearly out of fuel. It's got 0.4% on the Haltech. So I'm going to run that completely empty today or on this weekend at some point, and top it up with a jerry can of E85 I've got, and then do the servo and get the full voltages, just so we can calibrate the fuel sender perfectly. So let's start getting stuck into it and see how distracted I get along the way, because we all know I will be. I already nearly got distracted when a dog was just walking past. All right, let's start with the one I would say is the most important. Rocker cover, well, coil cover bolts. So just gonna fit them and then just see the before and after. Alrighty, all done. Doesn't that look much better? Just clean up that disgusting little greasy patch. Alrighty, next job to tackle. These MIDI fuse holders. So obviously I had 2, it's gonna go to 1. I'll put some braid sleeve on this just to cover that up, make that a little bit neater. Put some braid sleeve on those to cover that up a little bit more, just to eliminate the look of how many wires there are. It'll look like there's less, and try and neaten that up a bit. Give the battery tray itself real gross, so I'll give that a clean, and then I'll start on the intake pipe and see if that clears the power steering, because from some angles it looks like there's heaps of room, but from other angles it really looks like there's none. So let me just take this off the tripod, because when you get right down, it actually has quite a lot of overlap. But it does point, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, we'll see how much of an angle we can put on the pipe where we cut it, and whether or not that will clear and won't have to remove the power steering yet. I do want to do the power steering, but for now, there's no need. So do that another time. All right, giving that a good old scrub. That looks $1,000,000 now compared to how it did. It was absolutely putrid. So start putting everything back in again, nice and neat, and see how neat we can get this. All right, I'm pretty proud of how this came out. Ready? That is much neater. So 2 MIDI holders, all 3 relays, wires tucked a little bit neater. This wire ended up just a smidge short, the one that runs to the ECU. So I'll see what I can do there. See if I can push some of that down, because I'd like to be able to tuck it in under there. I do also probably want to go on the other side of this if possible, so I may try and free up some of that and yeah, see what we can do. Alright, that's a little better. Undid some zip ties, still pretty hidden, does sort of sit a little bit better there. It does cross over the AC line, but without backing out the pins, which I can't be bothered doing today, I won't be able to get that under the AC line, so maybe I'll do that one day next time the ECU comes out. Now, next thing on the board, let's fit an intake. We'll try and make an intake anyway. See if we run into troubles, because this might get in the way and the power steering res might get in the way too. But anyway, let's see what we can do. At least the intake will then cover up a bit of this too. Alright, turbo guard off. Adding a silicone. It's not very long, but it is already very close to its power steering. Very hard to sort of show on video. Very easy in person to see that it won't work. But anyway, thinking we do basically that. Cut that much shorter right before the bend and hope it fits. So let's go. Alright, I think surprisingly, looking at that piece, it cut a little wonky, but for freehand 5-inch, that's pretty good. God damn, that fits way better than I thought it would. So it hits this, clears that. It's on a little bit of an angle into here, but there was actually like a good chunk to go to. Now I've just got to shorten this so the pod will fit. Oof. All right, let's see if I can do this time. There we go. That's probably just snapped enough off. Not cut. What are we talking about cutting? All right, let's add a pod and see what that looks like. Damn, got enough room in case I want to put a bigger K&N filter. Obviously, it'll be good when this gets redone and that can go a little bit lower. But that is bloody tip top for now, so that's going to be awesome. Get some testing on the dyno as well when it's on next. Put the turbo guard back on, put that on, try with the intake, try with the turbo guard, and I've also got a really fine mesh turbo guard as well that I can test. So be able to bit of myth busting there for myself and see what the actual verdict is. No old wives' tales here. We'll actually test it on the dyno. That just really completes the engine bay. I will be powder coating that black. I'll probably, when I redo the cooler piping, I'll send the cooler piping and that intake pipe away to get coated all at once. So no point coating it now or rattle canning it, it'll just look stupid. So just leave it silver for now and coat it all later. So yeah, freaking stoked with how that came out. That looks absolutely bloody beautiful. So I'm so happy with that. Alrighty, next job, I'm gonna replace this center console lid. So these are the rubbery plastic style. It's not too bad condition considering. They get a bit of slime in them, but I don't know if it's over time it's just slime or if it ends up being the rubber itself breaks down, because they lose the 3D, like it becomes less and less obvious. Anyway, 2 screws down here. Try and get a better angle. 2 screws in there, and I'll unscrew that, just the top half. Replace with my leather one, because basically if you're sweaty at all, black stuff just rolls off this and it's absolutely disgusting, whereas this is leather and it is easy to clean. So yeah, it's what they also do is on the door trims, you'll see right where an elbow would be sitting, they go slimy. So I'll probably clean that as best I can, but easier to replace these as well. So 2 screws, let's change that now. And beautiful. Nice and easy to clean, so quick easy upgrade. I think it was about $100, something like that. Alright, next job on the chopping list is cruise buttons. So my buttons all work, like everything's responsive, they don't get stuck, but this one's dodgy. So let's go ahead and fit these FPV ones, which I got off eBay, which are in much better condition, and we'll actually have a look at this and see if you can actually put these back together. Alright, so you got 2 T30s, you get them from the back, but you've got to move the wheel like that so you can get to them from the back. They're spring loaded, they stay in there. Should be a couple of Torx bits, they should slide out from each side. New ones will slide in, so they are actually a little bit gross there, which you wouldn't normally see, but anyway, swap them over. Well, buttons attached, they look so much better than the black ones. Just this is what FPVs had, so just that little bit fresher look. And then just got to plug it back in and do 2 bolts up, and she's done. Now, I do like the look of it, but it just stands out a little bit now, so I will be trying to track down either a FPV coloured ICC or I'll be going an Air Pro unit at some point, but not rushing into it. But yeah, and the reason why I did it was because my button was stuffed and I prefer the look of FPV ones. Now looking at this also, there's a broken tab, so I won't be able to fix that. Well, I started trying to fit this fire extinguisher bracket, but I was like, man, it doesn't fit. Like, filling up the bolt holes. I was expecting it to go through those bolt holes. I was like, man, I've been bloody stooped by eBay again. But I looked at the ad, it actually tells you how to fit it. You actually mount it to those bolts up under the seat. So it actually goes, you loosen them, and it literally mounts to those and it will sit more like that. So I'll just get a spanner now, loosen those off and put that on and see how that fits. Alrighty, all mounted up. So obviously just slips between the seat and the bracket. Seat and the bracket. Anyway, all done. Let's whack the extinguisher on. Alright, so there's just a slight mismatch on the holes. So I've got one bolt in, the other bolt is miles off, so thought I'd use like a big washer and a bolt, just go over that. But the extinguisher doesn't fit in the bracket, so I'm just going to drill it and be done with it. So I'll just get that drilled now. Alright, so got some socket head cap screws. They are about as flush as I can get this. Didn't really feel like buzzing down the heads of them to make them fit better, just because it's too narrow as well. So get this done up and whack the extinguisher in. Alrighty, all done there. I will try and find some shorter bolts at some point, but that's all I got for now. So nice and secure. That ain't going anywhere. The more I look at this, the more I think I've got this upside down. So let me know in the comments if you have this bracket off eBay and you have an extinguisher. Is it supposed to go the other way? The way it's supported at the back, like the gusseting, really makes it look like it won't work the other way, but it sits up really high. So yeah, let me know in the comments. I wonder if it was designed for a Falcon with their electric seat without the slider. So yeah, let me know. Alrighty, parts table absolutely shrinking. So all I got left now, service, which I'll do tomorrow. It's getting late, I'm about to head off. Fuse box, which I'll do tomorrow, and add the transbrake relay into the ECU, and the battery cable glands for in the boot, which I can do whenever. Now, I'll do this before I go, and that'll probably be it for today. And I'll be back tomorrow to finish the video. Okay, so my keypad that came with the car was a little bit dodgy. The contacts for the button are a little bit green, so a little bit corroded. So got a new one. So to program that, we go key in, position 1. And then within 5 seconds, you want to hit this 3 times. 1, 2, 3. That'll cycle the doors, which I hope you heard. Then you hit the button on the remote. That'll program that one. Then I'll hit the button on the old remote. I'll hit the unlock button. That's now programmed that one. And now I can just go key off. And now this keypad will still work. It always worked for unlock and boot, but the lock button was a bit dodgy. So that's programmed, and this one's now programmed. So simple as that. All right guys, just gonna get stuck into it today. Day 2 of the video. Gonna get the car off dyno, pull this fuel pump out, and drill out this Venturi and see how that affects our fuel pressure. All right, let's get into it. Also, yes, I absolutely did go home and look up pictures on how this is supposed to be fitted, and it is upside down, 100%. So I'm gonna flip that now and see if that looks any better once it's flipped. Yeah, so that looks a whole lot better, doesn't it? It sits a little far over now because I had to drill those holes, but it is what it is. It'll be a little bit less in the way of the legs not being right up there. It did seem odd that it was so high. So yeah, much better. All right, let's get this fuel pump out. Now, sometimes I find it's easier to push, keep kicking my tripod, but sometimes it's easier to push this in and then flick it out. Once it's released from the floor, then you can pull it out. Sometimes that's easier. So let's undo the electrical connector. Oh yeah, she's Phillips head screws. I always forget that. It's been off recently. These come off real easy. Now I would probably recommend doing this by hand if you're doing it for the first time in a while, because these screws strip real easy. But I reckon mine will come out because they were out not long ago. Yeah, beautiful. Trying to remember what way that pump goes, obviously to the hoses. Right, so fun fact, I had this calibrated as empty, pretty much. My health ex said that it was 0%, because I was just going off the percentage, the fuel voltages as the last car that I did, but we are about 1 centimetre, 2 centimetres of fuel left, so there's probably still a few litres in there. So it's probably not a bad spot to say that it's at 0, but when I put the, I might actually go get a fuel pump and just pump some more of this out into a jerry can for now, and then get a true 0 reading, and then I will know exactly when my tank's empty. So this is the return Venturi here in the bottom. I have showed this in my other video, but you flick that out and there's a little hole in that that is tiny. That's the return port of the fuel, comes in here, goes into that, and that's designed to suck fuel into the swirl pot, I believe. So to keep the swirl pot full, but I've got a surge tank, so it really doesn't matter how well that works. So I'm just going to flick that out and drill that out. Now your assembly may be much older and crustier. This fuel tank, this fuel pump is only like a year old maybe. Oh, it's actually older than that. It's been in that grey BA for probably a year or two, but it's done no work. So You will feel like you're going to break this, but it does come out. Just feels really awful and squeaks and creaks and carries on. So yeah, all the fuel comes in here, shoots out there, out this tiny little hole. I don't know the exact science behind it, but drill that out and then you have a lot less return restriction. I'm going to go with a 4mm hole to start with, and we may need to revisit this and go bigger. I've changed my mind straight to 5mm. Don't want to do this again. Alright, that cracked and broke, so off to a good start. Doesn't really matter. Got the desired effect anyway. So there we go. Now it's got a much bigger hole. It did crack a little bit down here, but that's really not going to affect it. It's just going to flow a little bit more out, I guess. So let's go ahead and whack this all back together and put it back in the car. Now, if you even semi-regularly are using fuel jugs, I would highly recommend getting one of these Aeroflow fuel transfer pumps. They're like $90 or something. 4 AA batteries. They take 2 minutes to empty 20 litres. So if you need to drain your tank, you can pump out of your tank because you can just dangle the hose in. The bottom of it's the pump. You can also keep your jugs on the trailer or in the back of the ute and fill your car Bowser style with the spout. So much easier than, like, yeah, obviously you can pick the jug up and use a filler neck, but if you've only got a sedan, then you don't have to carry filler necks with you. You can just carry that with you. Yeah, and the filler necks are like $30 anyway, so you might as well get that. It's only $90, so yeah, awesome tool. Just drop it in, and away you go. A lot easier than using a siphon. Right, so hard to see, but honestly probably got 6 litres out of that, so I'll probably just leave my fuel calibration where it is for empty. Maybe I'll just see what the voltage is now and just maybe go somewhere in the middle of where it was empty and where it is now once I put the sender back in. And it'll be probably about 4 litres or so when it is empty now. Alright, fuel sender going back in. Don't forget to hook up your gauge. If I were you at home, if you've messed up some of these screws, definitely just replace them with normal bolts. But mine seem to be alright. So I'm just going to reuse the Phillips heads. I also have tricks on how to get the Phillips heads out if I have to, if they strip. Then I'd also recommend checking my video, because I'll just make sure that I got that right. I think it's white in the middle, but I'll double check my video. Plug that back in or it'll never work. Alright, then I'm going to check the calibration on the Haltech, see what the voltage is empty, and then I'm going to put my fuel back in. And another 20 litres because it was pretty much empty. Well, sure, I'm glad I went back and looked at the video, because the one with the white plug was definitely the return, not the feed. That one is definitely the evap. Alright, now I will also leave my back seat out. I'll put in my fuel that I just took out, and I'll put in another 20 litres, and then I'll go to the servo and fill the car up and make sure that this ring doesn't leak. So always a good idea to leak check it as soon as possible. Alright, so pulled out my fuel pump relay, put my ignition on, just didn't want to have the fuel pump running with no fuel in it. So I can see there now, well, tank's completely empty at 0.66 volts. So I have set this up as 0.72 and 2.5, so I might set this now to just 0.7. 0.7. Just so I can go a little bit lower than what it was. Then when I go to the servo, I'll fill it to 100% and just double check and make sure that that is also 2.5 volts by just clicking there, and then sensor is calibrated. So 0.72 was what was in the other car. This one, yeah, 0.66 completely empty, but I don't really want it to be completely empty when it says 0, because I'm if I do have to run it down or anything. It's just that mental thing of just having that little bit. So pretty happy with that there. I will now add some fuel, make sure it does sweep up, and see what percentage of fuel, about 25 litres, puts in. It should be just under 50%. Here it is, you can just turn it on and walk away, because it also has a lock tab. Right, fuel's in. Power up again. Now if anyone knows a good trick how to get rid of that dinging noise because of the stock dash no longer having a fuel input, let me know. Alright, 34%. 1.3. Alright, awesome. So yeah, I'll leave that at 0.7 for 0, 2.5 for 100 so far. Once I go to survey, we'll double check that. But yeah, everything seems to be working, and obviously no longer jumping around because it no longer has two places it's trying to send the fuel sender, only going to the dash now, to the Haltech dash, not to the stock one. So I'll get the fuel pump relay back in, warm the car up, take it in the workshop, and continue on with some more jobs. Alright, one way I can test and see if this has made a difference by drilling the Venturi is I can disable my two Pierbergs, and then alright, so I used to build 20 PSI in the rail with the stock in-tank pump. So now with the pumps on, with just the in-tank on, it's only 5 PSI. So that has reduced that return restriction by a lot, by 15 PSI. So now I would expect that my fuel pressure should behave better now that the rig has got less pressure under it. So yeah, like I said, it was 45 or 46 PSI with the 460 with no drilled return, and when I put a stock style pump in, it was 20, and now it's 5 or 6. So I will test that on a road test later today, but we'll report back. But I have a feeling that we have fixed that issue, or if not completely fixed, it will be much better. Like, it will hopefully now only be a couple of PSI differential, rather than like 10 PSI or 15 PSI, depending on how much boost I was running. Well, other than just a battery code from sitting here with the ignition on for a while, that fuel pressure is rock solid. That's fuel pressure versus expected. Bloody beautiful. Now, one other thing I wanted to do, which I wanted to play with, was see if I could add some timing chop at idle, see what it sounds like. So let's put a little bit of excessive corrections in that and see what it sounds like. Sounds nice and choppy, so might play around with that for a little bit, see what we can get it to feel like, which is a bit of a stonking chop, so sounds pretty good. So let's see what it sounds like with the valve open. Sounds dirt nasty. So it sounds different to the rotational idle, which sounds like this. Leave that set like that for a little bit, see how it drives. Anyway, let's get this oil change done, and then on to some of the last projects for the weekend. It's got a bit of moisture in it, but it's had a lot of cold starts at work without getting properly warmed up, so I'm not too concerned about that. That's why I'm changing it before my next race. And time for a new sump plug. stock style. Hopefully the threads haven't been changed much. They look the same. We'll find out. No, it's definitely bigger. They're the same pitch, but definitely bigger. So I'll go find a washer for that. Tweak. Give that a bit of a brake clean and fill it with oil. Now I was trying to get front ball joints for this weekend, but I definitely forgot to order them, so I'll get some for next weekend and I'll chuck some front ball joints in next weekend. Alright, now I'll just top her off with 6.5 litres of Penrite's Finest. No straight arm pours here like the old Eberhawk with his Falcon. Check the oil level on my mint condition non-broken dipstick. Pro tip with Falcons, in my experience anyway, difference between add and OK is a litre, and when you start the car it moves about just under a litre. So if you want just slightly over the amount of OK, and then when you start it and check it, it's perfect. Look at that. Spot on. Perfect. Oil change done. Alright, that's all we're doing on the hoist. So back out again and let's do the fuse box and transbrake relays. Actually, I might run the glands on the rear cables just while it's on the hoist so I can get under the car a little easier. Alright, minor update here. The cable glands don't fit over the terminals. So I'm just going to leave them as is. I'll add these glands later at another date. Just running a bit low on time today. So, and I'd rather get the transbrake and fuse box done rather than worrying about this stuff because this is not going to affect anything. So it's just a bit of a cleanliness thing which I can fix later. So I'll deal with this later. Alrighty, let's pull this area apart for the 50th time. Change the fuse box and figure out what's going on with these relays. So my rough plan is when I click the transbrake, this one clicks. So I'm wondering if this one maybe does reverse lights or something, but when I put it in reverse it doesn't seem to click. So hopefully if I just pull it down, look at the wiring, I can figure out what it's doing. Alright, let's just cut some zip ties and see what falls out. Alright, I'll unbolt these relays, see what's going on. Alright, relays out. I might look at pulling this apart a little bit more, but spider web in that one. Right, we've got some twin core going somewhere. We've got some more twin core going somewhere else. And this one, I believe, is the actual transbrake one. More twin core, single core, and this is our power. So, not really sure what's going on there. Let's see if this one clicks when I get ignition on. No. I click the transbrake button. Definitely doesn't click. This one does. See if it clicks if we go into reverse. No. Very odd. Alright, let's start following some more wiring. I might have to get rid of the camera because it is pretty much in my way here. And I may end up just changing this fuse box first and getting that done and out of the way first. Right, so I've undone the first plug, which is just this main one here, this big brown one. So first thing I'm going to do is, that is for the sunroof. We worked that out last time. I'm going to get rid of that bloody Scotch lock, and I'll crimp that one in properly. Next thing is, this is the transbrake relay. It goes to that, and so does the fuse. So I might tape that up a little bit neater. I assume that's just switch, like ignition power. Alright, so the 2 bolts at the top are undone, just 8 mils. Then you just sort of switch this around and start unplugging everything as you go. Alright, fuse box out. Yeah, obviously then you would just double check, make sure everything's the same as your other one. So what I'm seeing here is mine had 30 there, this one was a 20, might leave the 20. If it blows I can upgrade it. Mine doesn't have that 10 there, might look into that, see what that one is. Then everything else looks the same. Mine was also missing that 20. And then mine had all the spares, which I'll transfer to the new one. They're just spares. But yeah, definitely broken compared to that one. So yeah, this one looks a lot newer too. It's a lot less crusty. Mine's pretty disgusting. You know those projects that you sort of start and you just wish you didn't? Anyway, we're into it. So I've got an earth here, which I'm assuming will be the earth for this switch, but we'll find out. So that earth I think goes to here. Maybe. That appears to go down to the transbrake. And I'm pretty sure that hole in the floor right there is the hole in the floor I can see from the bottom. I don't know if this will be easier to pull this further apart. I just don't know how these come apart though. It could just be these 2 Allen keys and then the top comes off and it will all be very obvious. But I highly doubt it. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to pull this, which is that cord there. Just going to give that a little tug here and see what pulls over here. But I'm pretty sure that is just the output which goes straight to the transbrake, and then don't know what that earth does. That earth may just earth to body, I don't know. Let's keep looking. Starting to think it may be easier if I pull the whole center console out. I think it's just these bolts down here on each side, and then I think that whole center console should come out from memory, unless I need to undo some of this stuff. But let's undo them and just pull this out. I think it's just going to be easier. Alright, had a quick look on the old YouTube. Got to pull the driver's seat out, so let's take the handbrake off to do this properly. So everything else is pretty much out. All this stuff's out. Yeah, well that's out. I'll also give it a bit of a clean while it's out, so might as well. I have a feeling that is the earth there for this wire here, but it looks like it gets crushed under here, so hopefully we can rescue that anyway. And yeah, so I'm just going to jump out, pull the seat out, pull the handbrake off and pull the center console out. Alright, seat and handbrake is now out. Let's rip this center console out. I am starting to run out of phone battery, so this may jump forward ahead all of a sudden if my phone dies. Alright, center console out. Lots of gross slime, so we'll give it a good vacuum. I have rescued that little wire there. It does look like just 2 Allen keys and that top will come off that, and that might show me what I'm looking for. I think my second relay is either the start lockout, like the park neutral lockout, or reverse lights. So weird thing is it doesn't ever seem to click, so I don't know, maybe it turns on to stop it starting, and if it's not turned on it can start, I don't know. So I'm just gonna pop that cover off and just really see what's going on there. I just assume there's a micro switch in there somewhere that'll figure out exactly what's going on. Alright, it's all making sense now. So I didn't need to fully remove this to work out what's going on, but that is definitely some kind of gear select switch, whether it does reverse lights and neutral lockout, maybe it does both, who knows. Anyway, don't care. All of that works fine, so I don't want to touch it. What I do want to change though is that's my wire to my transbrake solenoid. That goes into the car. Alright, I had a minute to ponder about it, talked to Bill again. Convinced of myself, now I know what I want to do. Alright, so this button is going to be put as an input to the ECU, into a DPI, into those wires that I routed the other day, to the aux connector. So that will always be able to be into the ECU and can be repurposed later. I've got it set up so that this can be transbrake, or I can pull cruise control button for transbrake, either one. But when I had nitrous, I could just repurpose that to nitrous purge or something instead. Then I don't have to mount another button. So I might as well wire it now, and then it can be transbrake or transbrake, depending on whichever way I feel. Nothing beats the old school transbrake on the shifter. It's just, don't know why, can't tell you, just feels cool. Anyway, next thing I found was under here, there's like another, what looks like very aftermarket conduit, and it's got about 20 wires into it, and I have absolutely no idea what it's for. But unless that is factory, well, maybe it is factory. I've just never really seen Ford route that sort of stuff, but it does look pretty factory there. So I'm just going to ignore that. I'm just going to vacuum all this shit up. Just, yeah, tape that back up, and then run my earth to my relay area, and yeah, work it out. But I'm absolutely cooked, so I'm not really explaining that very well. Alright, last effort to try and explain this and make sense. Alright, my earth for my switch, my switch was earthing, which was turning on the relay. So push the button, the earth goes to the relay. Now, I'm going to snip this twin core, because this is the wire that goes to my relay. That's power from the relay. I'm going to snip that. That's my earth from the relay, to the relay, sorry. I'm going to snip that. I'm going to send this to that. So I've got both sides of the switch going to the relay. I'm going to run a new power wire here from the relay to replace this. And then at the relay, I'm going to unplug my power wire from that. That will then go into the DPI, and then that will trigger the input. And then, no, actually, I still need to earth this, because the DPI needs to be earthed. So that earth needs to stay. The other end of this earth just needs to go to the DPI. Yeah, okay. Man, it's hard being this special. I'm just going to clean everything first and then think about it. But yeah, I'm going to put that earth back on, send wherever this earth goes, take it off the relay, put it onto the DPI pin, and then, yeah, so the switches becomes a DPI, an earth DPI, and then the relay will get triggered by the auxiliary injector wire instead of the switch here. Okay, that makes sense. Alright, everything's vacuumed, the OCD is relaxing a little bit. I know exactly what I want to do with my switch wires, which is, it's staying earthed, so the switch is a DPI. This is my wire I ran the other day that goes to my auxiliary connector, so one of those go to this black wire, and that'll come off there and go to that. And then the auxiliary injector connector wire from here will go to that pin on the relay, and then everything will work. And then I'll tuck everything up a little bit neater, and then put the seat in and go home, because it's getting freaking late and I'm gonna have to come back tomorrow and finish this. Alrighty, everything is fairly neatened again. These will be my 3 ECU wires, which we'll need to all sort of just get bundled up together. These are my shifter stuff, transbrake. It's all being conduited again. That is all for shifter position / reverse lights. Totally don't need to worry about that. This is my 3 core that goes to my ECU. So black is my DPI, orange is my transbrake output. So just need to put one of these bad boys on orange, one of these on black. Black will then get sent to my switch, and then everything should work, hopefully, or everything will explode. Alright, it's not my best work, but it's about as protected as I can figure out how to do it at this hour. Yeah, transbrake goes to the relay, transbrake output from ECU goes to the relay, and then the switch goes to the DPI. So I'm just going to put the fuse box and everything back in and just test it all before I go putting everything back together, and then I'll probably pull her up there. Alright, so the differences with the fuse box: amplifier, that's Siggy lighter, it was 20 on this fuse box, it's now 30 from mine, it's supposed to be 30. And then there was another one somewhere else here, I think. It's a 6-speed, and I don't have that, so pulled it out. So that is ready to go in now, and yeah, then we can test everything. Alright, I don't really have time to show you exactly how I did it, but transbrake works and transbrake works. I'll run into that a little bit later. For now that the car can be driven, I just have to move it because it's nearly dark out and I have to pack up and go walk my dog. So I'll finish the rest of the car off tomorrow, like put all the interior back together. But yeah, everything works for now, so that's awesome. So finally have proven concept. I'll also check and see if I put it in reverse, it should trigger the transbrake. Yep, I heard it trigger. Yep, awesome. So hopefully that all works, and yeah, I just need to pack up now. Alrighty guys, back again, day 3 on this video. Not much left to do, just got to put all the interior back together. I obviously got everything working last night, I just had to quickly get the hell out of here. So today I'm actually going to put it all back together nicely and try and add some more screws that were missing and stuff, try and get everything a little bit more secure in the car, center console, all the side trims and all that sort of stuff. Been on eBay again, bought some more trims that were broken, missing, whatever, to replace some of the other ones, so they'll be coming in a future video. So if you see me putting something broken back on the car, don't worry about that, it will be getting fixed later. Yeah, let's just rip into it and get it done, and then go to the servo and fill up the tank and just leak check that, and then put the back seat back in, and then we're done. On the plus side of having to pull everything apart to get to it was this is disgusting, and I can actually give it a good clean now. So let's give this a good sprucing and get ready to put it all back in the car. Alright, that's about 5 million times nicer. Was actually able to get, there was like coke or something had dried up in here and it was absolutely putrid. But yeah, all awesome. I'm gonna add some more screws because some of these trims are pretty floppy. There was one screw in here, that one was missing. Those ones are all missing. So I'm gonna add some screws there. Some little countersunk screws just to hold that all together. And up here and stuff, so it's all together. I will be on the lookout for a new tray holder maybe, and I might put some edging around this just so it's a little bit neater because it's a little bit gross and you can sort of see it, so I might put some pinch weld on that and just see if I can make that nicer. Alright, I don't really have any screws that are the exact right size. Too big heads, small heads. Let's see what actually works here. They're countersunk, but they might get away with just regular screws as well. Alright, so these little ones worked pretty good. They don't stick out too far, so I'm sure they'll be fine. So that'll just make this all a little bit more rigid. Alright, I don't have any pinch welds, so it's just going to go back together like that. I'll put some in later. Maybe when I go to the servo, I'll stop in at Clark Rubber and get some. Just got to pull seat back out and start putting the center console back in. I'm actually glad I did it this way because I got a good chance to clean under everything. I don't know how much of that I sort of showed yesterday, but that was absolutely disgusting. So I'll give it one last vac as well before it goes back on because a little bit more dust and shit sort of got unsettled while I was rooting around in there. So we'll get this done now and get the hell out of here. Alright, final vacuum done. Anything that's left is stuck effectively. So looms are all tucked away, everything's out of the way. Everything that needs to go up through the console is in the middle, all good. Everything has been as cleaned as it's going to get. I've also tucked all the wires and cleaned this side, so everything is tucked neatly out of the way, you'll never see it. So ready for the console to go back in. Alright, this footage may never see the light of day, but I'm going to attempt to film putting the center console in. It's going to be a mess. redo all this because alright, not too bad. Overall, great success. Yeah, pretty happy with that. I'll start putting some more bolts in and yeah, should be good. That's clipped in at the back. Just got my 2 screws can go in there. Then put the handbrake and everything on and looking pretty good. Right, center console, carpet in properly, nice and snug. All this stuff's back together. Have ordered a new kick trim because I broke that and then I broke that. I've ordered a new one of these because that has a hole in it. And I've ordered a new one of these without holes. So just a few more screws, put the lower tray of the steering column on, put a couple of things back together and we're done. Alrighty guys, everything is back together now. Center console, bloody tidy, everything's clean, everything is schmicko. All the trims are where they need to be, everything's tucked, all the wires are tucked away. My favourite part of this car is the fact that it has a working cup holder. It's not broken. It's like the only one in the world that's not broken. Keypad is just tucked here again. Everything works awesome. Now, what I was sort of trying to show you yesterday is if I start the car, we have got everything working now. So if I just go forward a bit, but if I just put the car in reverse now, it'll reverse with the transbrake. Oh. So automatically puts the transbrake on. If I push this, it'll put the transbrake on. Or if I pull this, it'll put the transbrake on. So yeah, I've got multiple ways of launching now. Now I have also set that up as a launch is now set up as a toggle. So when that gets pushed, it just turns it on. I have also rejigged how that works. So basically at Growl, the reason I had no launch control was I was setting it up as though it was a manual car, because I've only really done launch on manual or on 35 GTRs, which are effectively a manual in terms of launch, because they have no load on the motor because of DCT, they don't have the clutch engaged. So in a car with a converter, you don't want negative timing. So I was applying too much negative timing to try and build boost. Sort of had the equation around backwards. Instead of putting negative timing into it to build boost, to get the RPM up, I needed to get the RPM up to go through the converter to build the boost, because the converter is what holds the load. So I have changed my way of doing that now and everything's working much better. I can get like 9 pounds of boost at like 4,000 RPM now, which is probably going to be heaps more than my tyres will be able to handle for now. So I now will treat launch control as a limiter to limit the RPM or to limit the boost of how much I'm creating, rather than to get it onto boost, which is what I thought I was trying to achieve. But yeah, as it turns out, it's completely wrong for a car with a converter. So cannot wait to test this at Bad Ideas now. Let's go get some fuel, make sure the fuel tank doesn't leak. Alrighty, so I brought a action camera to stick on the roof to video driving to the servo, and it has no battery in it. So off to a great start. So there's definitely no driving footage going to be in this clip. Anyway, so off to United now. Right, filled her up with the God's Nectar. See if we're leaking. No, we're looking good. All right, we can put the seat back in when we get back to work. All right, beautiful. All right, well, I also forgot, oh geez. All right, I also forgot a laptop, so can't recalibrate the fuel gauge, but it's 98.9%, so that's close enough. Don't really care. That is good enough, so not really caring about, well, 99.1 now, so don't really care enough to make that say 100 because, yeah, whatever. Well, I don't have a GoPro mount, but I have a phone mount. So let's see what this new intake sounds like. Alright, sounds a bit different. Sounds pretty cool. A bit more of a dose than the other intake. The other intake was more of just a whooshy noise. Yeah, parties. Alrighty, all back safe and sound. 1:30, I'm out of here. I'm gonna enjoy some weekend. So guys, thanks for watching, liking, subscribing, all that stuff. Catch you on the next video. Hopefully, next video might be ball joints and some other stuff. And then the video after that should be lakeside racing. So catch you later guys, thanks for watching.